Welcome to another episode of the P114 Filmmakers podcast. This is season 2, episode 9. I'm one of your hosts, Jesse Knight.
I'm Randall Lanier.
Cat Hole.
Aiden Ford.
And we're here to talk about all things filmmaking. Today we're going to talk about films that were totally underrated, and then also like sort of cult classics and stuff. We have a few we're going to be watching, maybe a few of the trailers for some of these and sort of discussing it a little bit, and we're just going to kind of like no real heavy structure here. We're just going to sort of talk about these films and stuff like that. So what one do y'all want to talk about? So we just watched trailers for Treasure Planet, Sleepaway Camp, Flash Gordon, and Big Trouble in Little China. Where to begin? You want to start with Treasure Planet?
We can start with Treasure Planet.
All right, so we just watched this with the sound on, but I'll let it play again as we start talking about it. And yeah, there we go. So we're just looking at Treasure Planet 2002 official trailer number 1 on YouTube if y'all want to check it out.
Sound's still on.
And pay no attention to the sound in the background.
We have to mute it.
Yeah, and let me make sure that we are recording. Just little things like that. I believe we are, and yeah, okay. I just had to make sure, There we go. So we're back. We're back to the beginning of this trailer. So, Kat, you picked this one. So tell us a little bit about this.
So this was the passion project of John Musker and Ron Clements.
Is it
Huh?
on? Is it on? I didn't see the red light. I'm sorry, Ken.
Oh, I put a piece of tape over it
Oh,
so
my
it
bad.
doesn't
I'm so
get its
sorry.
own reflection there.
Sorry.
Aiden was just asking us about a camera. Nothing to see here, folks. Continue, Kat.
Okay.
Of John Musker and Ron Clements, who most would know as the directors of Moana at the moment. And they did Hercules, others that I can't remember at this current moment. But the first thing they did was The Black Cauldron, which I love very much.
I haven't seen that one either.
Oh, it's good. It's the scariest villain ever. It's voiced by John Hurt. And, rest in peace, John Hurt.
Oh, wow, yeah. Forgot.
But Disney went through, I think, 3 executives who all told them, no, you can't do Treasure Planet. This was their passion project. And they were like, okay, if we do this, will you let us do Treasure Planet? And they're like, no. But if you do 2 of these, then maybe. So eventually they got to, yes, you can do Treasure Planet. And they, it's really interesting how they made it, because they wanted a variety. Because Treasure Planet, it's in space. You want something cool, something new. But also, they loved 2D and they wanted to be respectful to 2D.
Right.
But they brought in a bunch of people who were like, okay, we can do this and it'll look great with this. So they had the computer animation, the deep canvas, CGI, and then 2D. And they had this 70-30 rule. Yeah, 70-30. So you could have 30% something new, something different, something cool, and then 70% like 2D. Even with the music, they would have the Goo Goo Dolls and then some sort of fiddle thing playing in the background.
Interesting. What's funny is the 70-30 rule. There's another rule called the 70-30 rule, but it had to do with composition, and it came from like old westerns, like the old Ford westerns. But it'd be like 70% sky or 70% like land where the horizon line's placed was sort of what that was. But anyway, shove that off the cliff. So this came out. So it was, you would say maybe it was underrated because people weren't sure about that kind of technology yet. Maybe
That
Disney
for
was
sure.
sort of not.
Yeah, they were not behind the project.
Right.
They put it, I think, released in the summer, right next to Lilo and Stitch.
Oh no.
So they had that, and I think there was something like a big action movie was playing the next month.
And
So
there's-
everybody was saving to go to that one.
Sure.
They didn't market it a lot.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that movie, and then when you're bringing it up earlier, I was like, we should
And then
put
they were
remember
trying
that.
to
Yeah.
transition fully to computer animation and step back from 2D. So they were like, no.
Right. and they'd had weird work deal. I bet Disney was sort of like, well, we tried Tron a long time ago, and we didn't really like how that ended up using this CG stuff. And then, yeah, and I think, there had been a little bit of CG up to this point. Like you got some in some series, I guess, even starting in the late 80s, you get a little bit of that, just like experiments and stuff. So this is mainly probably that era where it really was at its, before it became really big, because then CG became more and more and more as we go on from 2002.
It did. It was expensive to make because they used deep canvas,
Right.
which looks gorgeous and beautiful and
What is
it's
that?
incredible. It's
Is it the engine
it's
they built?
layers,
Mhm,
so
mhm.
it's better than CGI in that it's a little bit more pleasing to the eye. It looks more natural,
It
Right.
kinda
but it
looks,
takes a long time.
It kind of
Right.
looks like how they made Tarzan. It looks kind of similar to Tarzan.
Yeah, the branches in
Oh,
Tarzan that
yeah,
you see
that's
in the
right.
beginning, those were deep canvas.
Mhm.
Spirit, the eagle that you see, that's deep
Ah,
canvas. The
okay.
water.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, no, it does look better.
If you
100%.
watch Treasure Planet and you look at Long John Silver's arm, that's deep canvas.
Mhm.
It gave him a lot more freedom because I think there are some constraints that I don't understand with CGI at
Right.
the time,
Mhm.
and then deep canvas gave them more leeway to do the weird things that they needed.
Right. I guess one can find Treasure Planet now. I guess they'll have to wait for Disney's streaming platform to happen, right? If it hasn't already happened, I guess they'll have it.
Yeah, it won't
On
be
there,
till
one can
next
hope,
fall
or you
next something winter or something
buy
like
the
that.
disc or the Blu-ray or the DVD. You can go that route too, but it's probably not going to be able to find it to stream. I
It was
imagine.
on Netflix.
It was on Netflix for a long time, and that's when I first watched it. It was about 5 years ago,
Mhm.
I think, and then I fell completely head over heels in love with it.
Right. And it's interesting, like this movie has all the tropes of something that should be this big budget spectacle that everybody goes and sees. It's designed that way. It doesn't look cheap in any kind of
No.
way. It doesn't look like, just
It's a
like
love child. It's a passion project.
right. When you think of cult, you think of like some old horror movie done like with like crepe paper and napkins or something, but it's like but this, probably millions of dollars to make this thing, and it's kind of funny how a big company like that can just be like, no, nothing to see over here. We're just gonna
Yeah, really.
tuck it in. It seems like they could have made more money off of it had
Yeah,
they just
you would think.
even released it. Like Lilo and Stitch, I've seen that movie. It's incredible. Yeah,
Yes.
of course. I'm gonna go see that. If I was a kid, I'd go see this bright colored, little creature and all that kind of stuff over. But I love pirates and stuff like that. It seems like maybe they could have released it. Do you think it would have been smarter if they waited maybe like in spring or something before it happened?
Either spring or
fall,
when
too.
fall, it's
Yeah.
kind of chill. Everybody's like, okay, we'll go see that.
Right. Yeah.
Definitely not a winter Christmas
Yeah.
sort of thing.
No.
When I saw it, it's not, the story is not even close to the same, and it's not, there's some similar to animation of there was an animated show for a little while called Pirates of Dark Water.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
it has something to do with pirates, but
Right.
I guess that there is a little bit of familiarity
Used to watch that.
but it kind of reminds me a little bit of that too.
Because futuristic pirate stuff going on. Yeah.
Maybe, I bet maybe that's as
Design-wise.
equal as it is to it, but it does. But if I think it's on DVD now. They put it out on DVD. Pirates of Dark Water. It's really good. It's not a kiddie show, whatever.
No.
It's
Yeah,
got
no,
a lot of
yeah.
adult tones.
And there's this water that's dark. It's sort of slowly taking over everything, and that's the overall problem that they're trying to figure out.
That sounds
Yeah.
creepy.
I never got to the end of the series. Did they ever
It's
figure
like-
it out?
No, because they only had one season to it, and I think they were
It's like
Oh,
originally
yeah.
going to have a continuing on, but I think
yeah.
they just didn't.
And that's awesome because that's sort of a cult. Like these little cartoons and stuff we grew up with were kind of popular for a moment and then gone. So a lot
Like
of them
Ants.
invariably, like Ants the movie, and that was a huge
Love that
hit.
movie.
Ants and Bugs Life, and they came out at the same
Ants was
time, but
better.
they both
was
did good.
terrifying.
I was.
I didn't get through it
It was,
because I was
it was
little.
for adults, I feel like.
Yeah, and then you had B movie later, but we don't need to get into that.
I saw some of that. It's okay.
What? Disney?
Yeah, it's Seinfeld.
Yeah. You brought up a Tron. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's a total. Yeah,
That's a
you
cult
know,
classic.
it's kind of cool because we can segue to other cult films and stuff. Like Tron, the first one,
Yeah.
was no one went to see that, and I went with my sister by ourselves. We had to
I
go to
went to
the
it.
questionable part of town to the bad theater to see it. Mom was horrified. I was a little kid, but we went there. We got our plastic drink cups with Tron artwork on it. We were really stoked.
And you kept that cup for a long time.
Yeah, until it just deteriorated. They were awesome. But me and my sister saw it. We were blown away. It was just a wonderful viewing experience in the theater to see that movie. And then we were trying to, you know, in Tron, you got the little rings that people are like trying to knock out, throwing the discs to each other. It's like people doing games and stuff. So me and my sister would we would rake the leaves or whatever in the yard into these little circles, and we would throw. We would throw plastic container lids at each other and try to knock out the rings.
Yeah.
You know, sort of like the floor is lava kind of situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, it was interesting. Like we just wrapped it. For years. We would do that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it as a kid or whatever. I even watched it a couple of years ago, and I thought it was still pretty good. I held up or
Yeah,
whatever.
it does. It's a good movie.
And,
I like it better than the second one though. There's things
Tron
about
Legacy.
the new one too that I liked, and
There's-
it's sort of very.
I'm surprised they made it Tron Legacy, quite
Yeah.
honestly, because Tron didn't do well, and
No.
then that do a sequel to it. I'm not sure if y'all know of Tron Legacy, if you remember that came out
All black and orange.
A number of
basically.
years
ago.
Yeah.
a number
But
of
I
years-
liked
a
it
couple
too.
few years ago. But
This is very different, but interesting.
I like the way they. I mean, it was a sequel. It wasn't even a reboot. It was
Yeah.
it was a sequel.
The sequel, yeah, and it
And-
did actually okay in the box office. I think.
I think
You know, there were enough people.
I think not
that
enough
were
to do
interested in
a
it.
sequel, but you know.
Yeah,
but I
at the
think
time I was teaching at an art institute, and there were all these kids in anime and stuff like that, and video games. Go figure, and they were all about that stuff. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Oh, can we go back?
I definitely want to see Treasure Planet though. It looks really neat. I love pirate stuff anyway. You know, I find it fascinating. And so did they wrap in the sort of lore about pirates like Blackbeard and you said Long John Silver
It's
and
based
stuff
off
like that?
of the Robert Louis Stevenson
Right, so
Treasure Island.
So you're getting that same sort of story, but it's
But you know it's different, it's adapted.
Right.
And it works so well.
and it's space pirates. I love
Yeah.
space pirates. Awesome. Now we're gonna switch gears to something completely different, to quote Monty Python. But this is a horror film that Aiden picked out, and it's kind of near and dear to me because I think it's the first like horror film that I'm not supposed to see that I saw as a kid at a friend's house. You know, I saw most of it, and I didn't get to see the ending then, so I didn't get to see the coup de grace reveal or anything like that. But you know, kind of interesting. But Aiden, I'm gonna let you talk about this while we let the trailer go. This is for the Sleepaway Camp 1983 official trailer HD that you can find on YouTube. So if you want to check it out.
So, like, I remember my friend kept trying to get me to watch this, and I was like, I don't want to. I've watched enough 80s horror movies that suck. That I love now still, but I just
Right.
didn't want to. And I didn't mean it didn't suck because I didn't see it in that situation, but, like, I remember when I watched it, I was cleaning, and I kept taking my attention, and I was like, actually, this is really, really good. I like the concept,
Right.
the idea, because, you know, I don't want to ruin it, so I'm not going to say what happens at the end, but
Right.
when you go to the end, it's like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
Like, how did that even happen? First of all, I was really weirded out because I was like, okay, I can't understand
Right.
how that, it made no sense at first, and then he had to break it down for me, but
Right.
it is definitely a classic
Yeah.
cult movie.
Sure.
I think also because it's just like, it was really cheesy, I think, even for the 80s, and I think
Yeah.
that maybe that had a lot to do with it because it didn't have, like, you know, the masked person with, you know,
Right.
like,
It
or the
wasn't a
guy with the
slasher
hands.
film, really, but it was a
Exactly.
slasher film.
No,
it's
yeah, it
kinda
was.
strange that way.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
I wasn't as a teenager in the 80s, so I don't probably have as much background as most people in this room right now. But, you know, it's just like, it definitely, even for, like, my age, it's
Right.
definitely worth watching. I don't have all the information like she had to be honest with you.
No, that's okay.
But I definitely give my, like, you know.
It's pretty neat. Like, it's interesting, like, going back and watching. When I was a kid, I just remembered, like, the killing, and it's not something I'm supposed to see, so there's the thrill in that. But watching it later, I'm like, Okay, very interesting flashback sequences of how that goes, which is how they're described, building you up to what's going to happen.
Yeah, they do a lot of
Because
that.
you're getting little bits, and it's like, wait a minute, was she a boy? It was hard to, you couldn't really put
It
it
was
together.
super confusing.
Yeah,
Like, if I
yeah,
tried to
yeah.
explain it to somebody right now, I'd probably mess up.
Right.
You know what I mean? I guess if you tried really hard, it wouldn't be too hard. But
Right.
you know, but
Mhm.
like, because like I said, my friend had to really break it down for me. Because I was like, wait,
Right.
isn't that her brother or her cousin?
Right.
And he's like, no.
And you can totally spoil it. This movie's been out since 1983.
Okay, fine, cool. So
you know,
yeah,
spoil away.
this whole time. So like when it started off in the beginning, I was like, I thought one of the kids died,
Right.
and
Yeah.
they didn't, right?
But I thought there were two.
There were.
And I thought one that was a
Oh,
girl
no, they were
died.
siblings.
And
And the boy lived. Okay, that's what happened. See, that's where I got
Yeah.
confused, is because I remember I was like, wait, because then
then
the
the
cousin
mom
made me
wanted
feel like
the
it was the
boy to be a girl.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I remember I was like, wait, I thought they were siblings. He's like, no, they're cousins. She went to go live. He went to go live
Sure.
with her.
Right.
And then when they showed her the end, it made more sense
That's
that
right,
the
yeah.
the girl died.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, that was trippy. And for a kid to show, I guess it tripped me out because I was like, was that kid really nude? Her like.
Okay, I have all
Yeah,
the
you
facts
so-
about that. It's not her. The kid is not really nude. What
Yeah.
they did was they got somebody of age, and they made a mask. That's
Uh-huh.
actually a mask at the end that they made, a latex mask, and it was just this dude that had a really slight build, but he was totally over 18. He was like 20 something or whatever.
And he was not well endowed at all.
Uh,
He was very young looking down there. 'Cause
yeah,
They had to have had
Right.
somebody that was not obviously a.
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Not to get that graphic, but you
Sure,
know,
sure,
it made
sure.
it seem more realistic.
And it played on I don't know what it played on definitely fears that people had back in the 80s and stuff like that.
Transgenders, yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Well, I think that's
Well-
what that movie, why the movie has become such a popular, because of
Right.
the ending, because it was different from everything else.
Yeah.
Everybody, like you just said, talking about one slasher guy going around killing everybody.
Right.
That's been done. Had been done by
Million
that
times.
time. Had been done.
Well-
Halloween had a few. By this time, Friday 13th had a few. So it's all been. Had,
And then
been
all the
done.
sub level like the driller killer stuff.
Yeah.
And all
I
that,
think
you know.
my thing is that I really enjoyed about this movie was the ending, just because it made everything that was building up to that moment even better. You know how it's like
Right.
you're watching something and it's okay, it's really
Yeah.
good, but then you watch the ending and it kind of all comes together, and like
Yeah.
I could watch it again even better knowing that ending now.
Right.
And so like I remember watching it and I was like, well, you know, when you said something about the mask, first off, I want to say this, that made it even 10 times scarier, the fact that it was a mask. That
'cause
was,
it
so creepy.
crazy looking.
It was super creepy looking.
Yeah.
Her face. I was like, oh no.
This person's like, honestly, I had the worst nightmares from Angela's face at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, he's right. I did too. Like it was super creepy.
Yeah, no, yeah, completely.
And then it wasn't. I don't think it was too gory, but it definitely had
Right.
some moments where it's like, ow, that would
Right.
hurt.
I liked Angela so much in the movie. I didn't want her to be the murderer.
Yeah.
You know, and I wanted her to like find
compassion for
happiness.
her.
Yeah, of course I did.
She was
Through the
very
whole thing,
depressed.
and then at the end I was like, oh.
You know, okay. So my thing is do you think the cousin had any idea? Because I think that for a second there, I don't know, like.
I need to rewatch it.
It's been a- yeah, it was
honestly.
about a
It's been
year
a while
ago
since
when I
I
watched
It's
it.
been a while since
Yeah,
I watched
yeah.
it too. So
Yeah.
it's hard
Right.
to
It's
remember.
way more to it than it seems than it
It is
ought to
deeper.
have to it.
It
Yeah,
is
it
definitely
definitely does.
deeper.
And it's those flashbacks that
Yeah.
really kind of hone
It
that stuff in. It's so
takes you-
weird.
I mean, we watched the trailer, and if we saw that trailer,
Right.
never seen it before, never had any kind of indication of it.
You wouldn't get it.
We were like, oh, that's kind of cheesy.
It's just a
80
killer again, yeah. You
horror
know,
movie,
cheap
whatever.
Friday
but,
the 13th.
Yeah, I wouldn't even
But it has a good concept.
waste my time.
Even one of the
on it, whatever,
victims in
you
that
know.
is Angela, and it's like when she turns around, you think, oh, well, you know, she's the heroine
Yeah.
or whatever, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she is in a way.
And what I think I also love about movies like this, and this just goes for all 80s in general, and even
Right.
ones today that do it really well, you don't have to have a lot of blood to scare the crap out of somebody.
No.
And it-
First
it-
Halloween,
and it gives
it
the
barely had
illusion-
blood.
Right.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Mhm.
It gives the illusion that that someone's about to die horribly.
Right.
There was a part though where a girl died with I think a hairdryer.
Mhm.
Am I wrong? It was
I
a
don't
blonde
remember.
chick.
I remember
Anyways,
the-
maybe I'm wrong.
The worst was the
Oh,
one
no.
that got me was
I got
the
it.
cook being pushed into his soup and his skin all bubbling and stuff.
That
Yeah.
did suck, but I remember
Yeah.
that being corny because I remember saying
That is corny.
I now
Yeah.
remember what happens to her. She
Yeah.
had like a curling iron of some sort.
Right.
And she
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about
not mistaken,
that.
I remember
Yeah,
thinking,
no,
ow.
I forgot about that. Yeah, you don't see anything. You just see an arm move like
And you
this,
know what's
or someone
happening.
selling it the
Like,
reaction.
And I remember
Yeah.
thinking to myself, that would really hurt.
Yeah.
Like, really bad. And then you don't see creepy, like, because people usually do the, I'm going to stab you in the throat, cut your neck.
Right.
But stuff like that, I kind of do like stuff like that, and it sounds wrong.
Right.
But it's because no one really does it.
Well, and it works. It's
That's why
body
they're
horror.
terrified.
Everybody's squirming in their seats watching it.
Yeah,
'cause it's like, ow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But definitely is a good movie to watch, even if you only watch it once. It's something worth watching, especially if you like.
It sticks
Right.
with you.
It
does.
does. Yeah, totally.
It really does.
I remember watching it, and I knew I wasn't supposed to, and all that kind of stuff kind of goes with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's been a bunch of them. I haven't seen
like
any
5?
of the others, but
4.
4 or 5 of them. Yeah.
I know. I wanted to
Yeah.
watch them.
Yeah, I think they brought Felissa back for one of them, but I'm not sure. She
Yeah.
wasn't in. I don't think she was in part 2 or anything.
I thought she was.
Maybe she was in part 2, but that was
Yeah.
it. I can't remember honestly.
I had no
Yeah,
seen anything.
there's
good.
a episode on the podcast of the Movie Crypt where they're interviewing Felissa Rose, and she goes through all that stuff in detail, which you can look online easily and find, and,
Okay, the
and that
crypt.
kind of stuff. The Movie Crypt
The movie crypt.
with Adam and Joe. Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, yeah, but she's good friends with those guys, and she was actually in Adam Green's latest film, the Victor Crowley, which is part of his Hatchet series. It was the 4th installment of Hatchet, and she was in that a good bit.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to something also completely different. Flash Gordon. I saw this when I was a kid, and I thought it was amazing.
What was so amazing about it for you?
What I liked about it was the variety of things that happened in it. All these weird-looking, strange, colorful people. A few sequences that sold it for me, though, and it was a great sequence. They had this sort of like the Archer people or whatever, the guys that lived in the trees.
Timothy
That wore
Dalton.
green. They all looked like Robin Hood, sort of in an idealistic way.
Yeah.
But they had this sort of mound of dirt with all these holes in it, and some kind of poisonous creature lived inside of it. And to pass this test, you got to stick your hand in there and get bit or not get bit or whatever, but you got to survive. If it gets you, you die. You know, that kind of thing. Just like the box and Dune and the other things like that, you know. But it was that built up a lot of tension for me. That color green. Yeah, you talk about it.
Well, the concept of Flash Gordon, because like I said, it's an old story. It was a comic strip before it was anything else. Is Earthling goes to Earthling with a woman, which of course turns out his girlfriend, and a scientist get. There's been different aspects of Flash Gordon over there. Sometimes
Right.
they're kind of different origins of it, but anyway, they wind up on a planet called Mongo, which is ruled by Ming the Merciless, and they're stuck on there. They can't get home to Earth, and they have to fight Ming's, Ming
Merciless.
all the time, and they have other people who become their allies, who are beings on the planet and all that stuff too. Anyway, that's the concept of the story, behind the story. The movie itself. It bombed because anything after Star Wars,
Like
if
that.
it's not Star Wars, it's not
Right.
it's not a movie, and so that's why it bombed. I mean, the Queen, I guess they had high hopes for it or whatever, because Queen
Right.
became did that soundtrack.
And they were huge at their
And
apex.
Queen
to
as a
this
movie.
day,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
this
Very
day,
exciting.
it's still rebel. Their soundtrack, the soundtrack is still
Oh,
highly regarded
yeah,
today.
absolutely.
And they because I mean anybody says, because there's the hero, the superhero called the Flash is a completely different whatever,
Right.
different from this or whatever. But if you say, hey, if you're gonna sit down and watch CW television show, and you tell somebody, I gotta watch the Flash, somebody says like that, because
Yeah.
it's just like that's
Everybody knows.
the soundtrack is just like, and this it's nothing to do with that hero or whatever type thing. But,
Right.
But anyway, it's very cheesy. It's very bad. The writing is really bad. The acting is bad in it, and I'm not gonna sit here but it's a
Max was okay, but you know he did
Yeah,
what he could. He was the only
Yeah, Max Fancito played Mean and Merciless.
Yeah,
he was a
very
very
famous actor.
Very famous actor. That he was actually the only really star of the movie.
Right, he's known for doing these lofty films.
Yeah.
Very, you know.
But he had to drag everybody with him or whatever in this movie
Right.
because
Oh yeah.
the guy who played Flash Gordon, he
Just kind of cheesy 80s workout.
Well,
looking
let's just say
dude,
this.
you know?
One of the lines was because there's these guys called the Hawkmen that were are some of the people on the planet, and they're called the Hawkmen because they have these wings or whatever, and they can fly.
Yeah.
And it's very cheesy special effects that make him show him flying through the air.
Right.
And they're going to go fight Ming, and Hawkmen are going to go help him. And he said, one of the lines is, the guy says that almost like this, you Goonie bird, you. And that's how what Flash. The guy Flash
Gives you
Gordon
an
says,
idea of.
he's telling them
Yeah.
he's talking to the leader of the thing, and I don't remember the
I highly
you
doubt-
Goonie bird, you.
I highly doubt they were wanting to make a serious movie when they made this. I just
No
don't
way.
see that as being possible after having seen it. I'm like, there's some sequences like
Right.
in the thing, and I liked the those Archie Timothy Dalton was
Right.
the
Yeah, Timothy
I
Dalton.
thought he was pretty good.
Yeah, this was before Bond and all that other stuff when he was Bond.
Right.
But he was not well known anyway
No,
at this
not
time.
at all. Yeah.
So like I said, Max Fancito was the only one who came around. But
Because it was comedy, action,
It's very-
sci-fi
yeah, it's-
kind of thing.
they just kind of took it.
Yeah.
But
The special effects, I think, was a big weakness for it. Because Star Wars came out and you got
Yeah.
state of the art, the
Right.
best, and if it's not that, what are you doing? Even Spaceballs, which came out later, had good effects
well,
for the time.
that was
Which is
totally
also a
spoof
cult.
movie.
Yeah, yeah,
that
which
was
is-
a total spoof movie.
Yeah,
But
totally.
But yeah, I loved it as a kid when I watched it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, as a kid, remember as a kid, you watched movies you loved. And you see them now, I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
But
started-
I have this on DVD. I have because they came out with a major celebration DVD of it or whatever type thing.
Right.
It's the movie Ted did a lot of stuff too. Spotlighted it too. Because I think when they came out with Ted on DVD, they came out with you could get a copy of this too with it or whatever type thing,
Ted
like a
the
2-pack.
Bear?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because apparently, I actually haven't seen it, but I heard about it. Mark Wahlberg's character as a kid liked Flash Gordon, the movie Flash Gordon, so I
Right.
guess that's why it
Yeah.
tied into it.
Yeah.
I think the guy who played Flash Gordon is in Ted. Also, it did as a cameo or whatever type
I
thing.
need to see Ted.
I haven't seen it.
It's okay.
It's okay.
But
Well, that's Seth.
Yeah. I mean,
But
I know.
it's still, like I said, it's very, like I said, a lot of people, I'm not gonna sit down and say, hey, it should have won an Academy Award that year. I don't
No.
care what you say.
But it had something about it that was very lovable and charming, and you just want,
Yeah.
if you can find something that you love about it, somebody else can too.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, like I said, the acting was anyway. I mean, actually Lucas was gonna want to do this, believe it or not. He wanted Flash Gordon because that's where
Oh,
Star
wow.
Wars came from. Was
Right.
because Flash Gordon was, like I said, was a comic strip. Then it went to then they did serials, movie serials of it back in the day, where you go to the movie theater on Saturdays and go to see serials.
That's what my dad grew up watching.
And
yeah.
they did Flash Gordon was one of the serials or whatever. So that's what he got. Him and Spielberg, that's where they got Indiana Jones from. Well, that's where and that's what George Lucas wanted to do Flash Gordon instead of Star Wars. I mean,
Right.
that was before all that stuff happened.
Sure.
He wanted to do Flash Gordon because they loved the he loved the serials. And so he didn't wind up doing it, of course. He did Star Wars, of
Cereal
course.
not meaning the kind you eat.
Well, I got that
so,
right.
yeah,
Okay.
okay.
I was
know that, but of
Yeah.
course I'm thinking that.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too. But yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, that cereal must have tasted
I said movie serials.
yes.
But anyway, that's what he wanted to do. But he wound up doing Star Wars instead, and of course I think that was good on that. But
Yeah.
but there again, he might have done this better. He might have done this more serious.
It would have
whatever, I
been
think.
probably a serious take on
Yeah.
it and all that, no doubt.
But
This was like, was this Dino De Laurentiis?
I think it might have been.
Yeah. He can go either way. It could be super serious or
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I mean, they've had animated shows since this. They've had animated cartoons of Flash Gordon and all that
Yeah.
stuff. They even had a sci-fi channel had a Flash Gordon series. It didn't last very long, I think.
Yeah.
But I was overseas when I was in the
Yeah, I
military
didn't watch
overseas.
it.
I didn't watch.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to watch it. But yeah. So it's been he's been a cult figure in the pop culture for a long time. But it's just yeah, like I said, it's something.
Because it doesn't like the books and the comics and the serials were all very serious and
Yeah,
approached
yeah.
it
It's
that
not
way.
like none
And
of that
this
stuff is like
just
this.
okay, what are we doing today? All right, yeah.
How can we make that a little bit weird?
Yeah, let's put the Hawkmen on ropes and just swing them back and forth for these shots. It's literally
and
that.
there again, they might have thought in the respect to the serials, because the serials, of course, had very
cheap effects.
cheap
for the
effects
time,
then,
sure, yeah.
and they had, like you said, the ships probably on strings.
They had fireworks
and
in the
everything like
back,
that.
and,
Yeah.
and they put this
Yeah.
sound, and you see a ship flying by. It
And
just
they-
was like a
and-
sparkler or
And
something they
these,
shoved in the back of
these
it.
ships were on strings flying by, they were
Yeah.
going by or whatever type. They were just on little strings flying by. And so, yeah, that's probably what they maybe took it from that. They were like, hey, let's do the old serials.
Oh, yeah.
The way
And
they,
the ships,
stuff
my
or
dad
whatever.
made the comment, like, when they're flying ships, they're looking through a little periscope to look at
Yeah.
stuff. And I said, well, my dad made the comment, well, if they make a sudden stop, that's just going to go right through the head of whoever's looking through it.
Yeah, instead of having
stuff
like
that, yeah.
panels or whatever to look at stuff, they were always looking through. Like,
Yeah, submarine technology
Yeah.
looking stuff, for the times, which
But,
was, I guess, high tech for then. you
Yeah.
know.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's fun
It
to
is.
laugh at and watch at the same time.
Yeah, it's definitely
Don't
one,
say,
like,
oh, it's serious. What's
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
happen here?
talk
You know,
over it,
Right.
eat a bunch of popcorn, have fun.
Right.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, that kind of thing. It's funny, like going over these is like, of course, I pick Big Trouble in China. I'm not displeased with my choice, but there were so many others too. It's hard not to talk about cult films and underappreciated films and stuff like that. Because some of the ones I love, like David Lynch's Dune, completely missed its mark when it came out. Was hated, though. I was excited because the previews for it looked great. It looked like it had some neat special effects. The comic book, they were good about putting the comic books out in a 4-issue
yeah,
or 5-issue
yeah.
limited series that gets you excited and stuff. Of course, I didn't know how I was going to get to the theater as a little kid to see it. And of course, I didn't see it until it came out on VHS. Wasted on my father that said it was boring. He had it there. I watched it. I was like, are you crazy? This is great. Anyway, Big Trouble in China. Here we go. This is a John Carpenter film, and it's really hard to explain what this is, because it's it's definitely action maybe first, but a close second is its comedy aspects to it. They take a lot of these sort of 80s one-liners and stuff like that and really utilize them as about as good as you can in a movie in this one, And it has some really interesting cinematic stuff. The effects are good. The action sequences, I love the action sequence where they're after the airport and they're first looking for the girl with green eye, Mao Yin or whatever, and Jack is riding around with I forget the character's name, the other main character in the movie, if you will, and he's like, Jack, Lords of Death down that way, turn now, and they make this huge right angle turn down an alley, and then they stop, and all these these two gangs sort of start coming out, and there's a funeral going on. This other group shows up, and then it's just this amazing battle sequence in the middle of this little narrow street, which that won me over pretty quickly.
So is Jack,
The airport scene was cool with the eyeglasses, huh?
I'm sorry, is Jack what is Jack?
He's a truck
He's
driver.
He's just a truck driver.
Just your average everyday truck driver. The dude he runs into is an old friend of his. It starts off and they're gambling and stuff in the beginning of the movie, and then he's his friend's well, I got to pick up this girl I'm supposed to marry from the airport, and then Jack just gets intertwined into that story,
So he's not a hero.
He becomes a hero. Yeah, exactly.
He doesn't start out.
Average Joe becomes hero. Is sort of
Those are
what
always
that
the
is.
best.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. And it's just great. And he's funny. And he's not the most badass out of everybody there. Like, he just knocks himself out. He misses most of the battle at the end because he knocks himself out. Spoiler alert. But there's all kinds of neat things. And I don't know what my favorite part is. It could be, what's the name? I mean, Egg Shin's great. He's the guy, he's the tour guide who's there and stuff like that. But really, it's... I think this actor just passed. He was in everything, like a lot of '80s movies and stuff like that. But the guy playing,
I know what you're talking about. Wasn't he in Karate Kid? Mr. Miyagi.
No, it's not. No,
Pat
that's
Morita,
not.
right?
That's Pat Morita. He's not even in this. Yeah.
When I saw one of the karate guy in it.
I don't know. The guy
There's
I'm
the guy
referring.
that was the voice of Poe's dad in Kung Fu Panda.
Right.
Which one was he?
I have to hit IMDb real quick.
Long nails,
That
man.
was him.
Curse my brain.
Well, like I was saying earlier too, I think to get this movie made, you had John Carpenter, who was well known by that time and had a lot of stuff behind him. So I feel like that's what kind of got the movie made. And Kurt Russell, of course, was a star then too. But to get it made, the movie made, it was the two of them. But then I think it didn't do well at the box office because I think people were expecting it. We didn't know what they
Right.
had.
They didn't know how to take it at that time. It was.
What year was that? And what time of year was it?
This was
July
86.
of '86. Okay, so this is
86.
before Die Hard.
Yeah.
I was just thinking if they were trying to do it, if somebody thought that was going to be another Die Hard, but Die Hard came out in '87.
Right,
so.
and there used to more of a harder, more horror-based tone with Carpenter before
Right.
this, with
Well,
The
yeah, that
Thing
too.
and Escape from New York and They Live, which did pretty good. Which They Live might have been after this. I can't remember. It was around that time.
Oh yeah, I don't
But,
know when it came out.
Anyway, I was trying to. Wang is, of course, the friend of Kurt Russell's Jack Burton character, and they're kind of on equal par. Jack, you get a little more of, but Wang is kind of the main reason he gets involved with the whole thing. But my favorite character, though, is played by James Hong, and it's David Lopan,
Can you
and he plays
press
this.
on it?
Huh?
Press on it and see?
Who?
Yeah.
James Hong? Yeah.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
been in everything.
Yeah,
like
he's
he
been
was
in-
in everything.
yeah.
A lot of TV, and there's actually a lot of other extras in this that were in everything as well.
Mhm.
You know, they're always like, we need an Asian gangster. We need an Asian,
Yeah.
head of a company. We need a.
He's done a lot of voiceover work too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And I think.
Huh.
No, he's still. James Hong is still alive. Good.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So I think he still
How old
does
is
stuff.
he?
He was born in 29, so he's up there. Yeah, in his 80s.
Well,
Yeah.
it's 19 now, so think about
You can make it to 100.
Mhm.
I believe in you.
I bet he can. But his character is my favorite because he's plays this withered old, really incredible makeup, withered old man who's just like cackling and evil but funny as hell.
Oh, yeah.
And then he can turn into this like god that's totally young seeming and all that kind of stuff. And
He was
really
like in his 50s when it came out, right? 60s?
no, he was younger than that, younger than 60s. I think he must have been 50s, late 40s,
50s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
God, wait, 86 was...
Was
30
math. So,
30 something years.
Yeah.
Sorry.
30 years ago. Yeah. So
Yeah.
50s. Yeah.
Jeez.
Mhm.
Okay, sorry, I had to.
He's had a long career, and
Yeah,
he's
he has.
did a lot of stuff after this, Yeah, but he's amazing in that movie. He's probably my favorite. You can't go wrong with Kurt Russell. He's going to be Kurt Russell. He can be funny Kurt Russell or serious Kurt Russell. You know what you're getting. It's great. This guy just knocked it out of the park, though.
Right.
James Hong.
Was-
It was just crazy good.
Just because you're the movie buff here.
Uh,
Overboard, was that underrated or something?
Overboard was underrated. I went to
Okay.
see it.
Not
I
to go
did
into
go
the
to
topic,
see
I
it,
love that movie.
and it was just kind of a rom com that kind of happened.
I think it
and
did
maybe
well,
it did
though.
well though. Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it did
had
do well.
good. I had some good actors.
The
in it.
original
Yeah.
Overboard or the
The
one-
The original,
Okay,
yeah,
sorry,
yeah. Actually, yeah. I remember
It was-
going with my whole
I-
family and a bunch of cousins and stuff. We saw it.
Such a
Tape
good
later.
movie.
Yeah.
But
Maybe
I
that
wasn't
did do
I wasn't a fan of it, but that doesn't mean that. I mean, it did well.
Anything
Right.
with Goldie Hawn, I ate up.
And it was during
I like how it played.
their heyday, you know, Goldie Hawn and him.
Yeah,
and
they
after
were in
that,
the
you
prime.
didn't really
They
see
were in the prime,
Goldie
yeah.
Hawn much of anything after
Yeah.
that. You know,
They were kind of in
Wait,
the prime.
what was the Benjamin movie?
Benjamin Button.
No, with her in it, where she was in the.
Private
Private
Benjamin.
Benjamin.
I,
That was
oh, that
before
was a great.
that. That
Yeah,
was before
yeah,
that.
yeah. I saw that movie, and my mom.
That was
I
on
watched the
really.
show with my mom too.
She's such
Yeah,
a
I
good
did.
She was in the Banger Sisters.
Forgot
too.
about
That's
that.
it. I'm just gonna dismiss it for a sec.
Kim Cattrall was in this too,
Early
who
Kim
ended
Cattrall,
up being huge with Sex and the City and stuff. But I
Yeah.
thought she was awesome in
I
this.
can't believe she. How? Oh God! Oh my gosh!
Yeah, she was in this. She was in the Police Academy movies
Yeah.
and stuff like
She
that.
was in
I love
one of the
her.
Star Trek
She's
movies.
super
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
Beautiful
Yeah.
woman.
hmm But her comedy is up there.
Yes,
it's really
it
good.
is.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. So the guy from Karate Kid's got to be in this. Hold on.
Victor Wong is the other guy, and he plays Egg Shin, and he was in a lot of stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
him.
know, but that's not Mr. Miyagi.
No, not Miyagi,
Yeah.
but he was in one of the. He was in the one with
Maybe he was in.
With-
We'll scroll down.
He was the one with
Let's see.
Hilary Swank.
Oh.
Oh yeah, the next Karate Kid.
That'd be. in
It
the
would
90s
be
somewhere.
early '90s time frame. I don't see it on here.
I don't see it.
Hilary Swank, right?
It would be. It's
Yeah,
not on
the
there.
last thing he was in was Three Ninjas High Noon at Mega Mountain.
Well, who the hell? No, that was.
Could have been somebody
No,
else.
there's no way. No possible way.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Of course not. No.
The Last Emperor. He was in a lot of stuff.
I
He
mean, you
was
could
in
look up
Prince of
next Karate
Darkness.
Kid. You could look up next Karate Kid.
I'm doing it right now.
real quick.
I'm sorry, I have to know. Yeah. The next Karate Kid, I got it. Pat? No, maybe it isn't him.
Pat Morita is.
No.
Yeah,
it's
they
not
just
him.
look so much alike. Oh my god.
Sometimes, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That
I knew I was wrong once you
Totally
didn't say it up there, but
different. Yeah, yeah.
they look so alike.
And that guy, like when
Wow.
he talks, you can tell the Asian influence in his voice. But Pat Morita
Look,
talks,
forget
he
that.
just sounds like some dude from California.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, not him.
Oh no, the one before.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But,
Sorry, I didn't pay enough attention
Sorry.
to the one before.
I wasn't trying to be right, but I was about to beat myself in the head over that one.
This is
I
where
wanted to
we.
be right,
No
yeah.
one wants to.
This is,
be
you know,
wrong
it's a
unless
learning
you know.
place, so
It
it's
is,
all
but
good.
now I know.
It's all good.
And no one has half the battle.
Yeah. So for the rest of this, we've gone about 41 minutes. Not bad. We can open it up to further discussion about cult films and all that. I hope that maybe one day I can make a film that can become a cult film. Though I would like it to do well from the beginning because my ass needs some money. But you know, that's that's sort of the thing.
There's a cult film, or it's not really a cult film. I don't think anybody really likes it. But The Black Hole, which was Disney's trying.
I give it there.
Which was Disney's trying to
It was
do
a
another
cult for a
Star
while,
Wars.
then everybody forgot about it.
Yeah.
There's some movie on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah,
But,
Black
that-
Hole. Wow.
But that was Disney's trying to get do with their Star Wars, but
Right.
they learned from that. They didn't do it
I
anymore.
know, which is a shame because it was a neat story.
It's an odd movie. I liked
is
it as a
odd.
kid,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I watched
yeah.
it later on. I'm like, okay,
Not too sure.
Now I know why it didn't do well.
Yeah. I did like it as a kid.
I mean, they had some effects were pretty cool even for that time.
Right.
The robots even were
Production
kind of,
design.
was pretty good and everything like that. So,
Yeah.
but it had a lot of people who you didn't know they weren't even stars at the time. Anthony Hopkins, Anthony Perkins
Right.
was one of the stars that no kids would know any of these stars because they
Right.
hadn't been around for a while.
Yeah.
But Anthony Perkins was the only thing that maybe people would recognize in the movie to
And
me anyway.
maybe John Boy. Or wait, no, John Boy wasn't in it.
He's
Sorry,
not.
I'm getting it confused. Now Beyond the Stars, my problem.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I believe in you.
Yeah, I can't remember any of the actors in the Black Hole. I remember the robots really well, and I remember the
Yeah.
main evil guy in the ship.
I can't think of his name, but
Yeah.
he's a famous British actor. Like
Yeah.
I said, a lot of Ernest Borgnine's in it.
Yeah.
And which even today, like I said, I'm seeing these names today, and
Right.
nobody's even wouldn't know they.
And
the names
Ernest
of
was
them.
in a lot of stuff.
And was it 79? I thought that was later. I thought it was more like
E09, yeah.
I thought it was more
I could
into.
see that. Yeah. Maximilian Schell.
That's
was
the main bad guy, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I mean,
Which he looked
well, he doesn't
different.
even look like him. He doesn't even look like him in the movie. But,
Anthony Perkins, Dr. Alex Durant.
Right, and Robert Forster did some other stuff that one of the other, but they anyway they didn't do much anything else after, like I said, a lot of different stuff after, but anyway, except for the Sport Night, he did Airwolf later on.
Yeah.
But the robots, there's the robots from it.
They look cool. Maximilian's really cool.
Oh no, that's Maximilian. I don't know. But and Vincent and Bob, that was the other one.
Were the other little guys, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, look at the posters were pretty cool and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it did not do well because it's actually it's more science fiction than fiction-y than science fantasy or science fiction fantasy or whatever type stuff.
And not a huge action film, really.
That's what I'm saying. It had a very, very low. I mean, it's. But I think that's definitely been. It's got definitely a cult following to it, if anything. But that's another one that anyone that you know, anything else, or back on? No, no.
I know you talked about The Princess Bride.
Oh, yeah,
cult
yeah.
classic.
Mm-hmm.
Huge following.
Yeah.
And for good reason, I feel, because that was, again, another passion project of Rob Reiner.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something that was hard for William Goldman to give to somebody to make.
Right.
Because, there had been so many people besides Rob Reiner who had come before and had wanted to do weird stuff and wanted to change things and wanted to make Arnold Schwarzenegger Fezzik.
Oh, Lord.
And then along came Rob Reiner, and he's like, no, I want to do it exactly like this. I want to get Andre the Giant to be Fezzik just like you have planned. It's like, okay, you can have it.
Well, let's see, I was trying to think. You read the book, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I hadn't read the books, but I had just seen the movie. Is it the movie like the book, or is it got a little bit of a... I mean, similarities?
In a lot of small ways, yeah. In the grand scheme, a lot of the characters are better in the movie.
Okay.
Like, especially Buttercup is a stronger character in the movie versus the book.
Wow, that's rare, especially
is.
during that time that it was made, too.
Wesley is a lot more charming in the movie. Fezzik is pretty much the same. There are a lot of cool stories that never made it to the movie.
Right.
In the book, but the way William Goldman switched it from the book to the movie, it feels personal. Like he took his favorite little bits, and they are all small, and stuck them in there.
Does it have? I mean, it's not. It doesn't start out, or does it? I mean, maybe it does. In the book, does it have like like a grandfather reading to his son, or was that just for because it was based on a book or whatever type thing? Cause
he does it like it was his father reading to him.
Okay.
And he's telling the story about that. It's a little confusing in the way that it's written.
Okay.
To me personally.
Really. Okay.
And it starts out with Buttercup and Wesley and her parents and Count Rugen and his wife coming and breaking down in their carriage at their home, and Prince Humperdinck is like this weird barrel-looking monkey guy.
Okay.
How did that movie do do you remember how Princess
did
Bride?
terrible.
Yeah,
Really? Wow.
Oh,
it didn't
yeah.
do well.
Because I remember renting it, and it wasn't that. It was when it first came out, and it was huge.
Yeah.
When when it came out on
Right.
VHS.
They had no idea how to market it. Like the posters that they did, the trailers made no sense. so no one went to see it in the
Yeah.
theaters.
I think we're talking about a time too where people weren't willing to accept genre blending so much, and now I can't think of a movie that comes out that isn't a blend of genre.
They
You know,
throw something in there or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I think I'm trying to remember because I remember seeing the like I said trailer to it. I guess what kind of I didn't go see it. I did see it on video later on.
Right.
But excuse me. Like I guess Billy Crystal. One trailer was Billy Crystal, and I liked Billy Crystal, so that's why I think that kind of prompted me to want to see it. I didn't know much about the story, and I didn't know much about anything more than that. But but then I remember my brother had rented it and came home with it, and me and him started to sit down and watch it, and we were really laughing a lot about the like I said. Like I told you, the Roger Johnson with him and trying to rhyme and everything like that, and Molly trying to screaming at him, "Stop it!" And then the scene, of course, is the classic scene that everybody brings up whenever they talk about it, is when him and when Wallace Shawn's character,
Six-Fingered Man, or
they're battering back between the two of them or whatever type thing, and we're maybe you did drink it, or maybe I did.
Oh, that one, yeah. There's so many instances. I think of
it's
like
inconceivable.
So many
Antonio
charming
Montoya.
Yeah,
You killed my father.
that brings that.
Prepare to die.
The whole Miracle Max bit.
Oh God, yeah. Oh geez, and the guy's pronunciation of stuff who was doing the wedding.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Marriage. It was just great.
And
yeah.
the one, I liked the Chris Sarandon, like he was an expert tracker, and he like always knew he put exactly what happened down.
Yeah.
He would always say exactly what happened there.
Yeah. One of the best sword fights I've ever seen up to that point.
And it was all them. It was so much respect for. It's the same guy who did the choreography for the Star Wars movies.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah. That
yeah.
British dude. I forget.
And the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, that was a fantastic movie. It's like.
And then to do the dialogue while trying to.
Yeah, I guess the general audience wasn't perceived as being, what's the kindest way I can put this? Complex enough to kind of deal with, with. Wait a minute, it's people with swords and comedy.
Yeah.
That can't be the way.
I mean, I think, but the thing about it is, if it had come out later, I mean, if it come out now, it'd be good.
Right.
I think, but if it even came out a little bit later, I don't think it would work, because a lot of people would think it would be a spoofy movie like those other movies that came out, like a date movie and all those other movies, and those movies are bad, or really bad. They don't do well, or whatever type, and they probably think it was a spoofy movie
like
of something else or whatever.
I think if they had made it now, they would have ruined it, because they wouldn't have had to do all the practical.
I wonder if it would have done better had they done it after Wonder Years, the series, had started.
Oh,
They would have had a little bit of
Savage.
an older Fred Savage, but not quite the little tyke. He wasn't that, but the first maybe the first season of Wonder Years, they could have still used to, because that show was huge.
It was.
Everybody was watching Wonder Years there for a bit. Yeah, and Columbo's the grandpa was kind of fun, Columbo as Columbo.
Pretty much.
Yeah, he's always
He's always on the same part.
yeah, which is great. I don't really want him to be the other way.
He was in that movie, The In-Laws, with Alan Arkin. He played basically Columbo, but he was a secret agent at that time. But he was, but he was Columbo.
Wings of Desire, the German film. He was in it, and he's kind of pretty much Columbo in that movie.
To have such a versatile character, I guess we can stick him in anything.
And it works.
And it fits.
He's great.
I mean, I'm not putting him down by any means.
No, not at all.
I love those, what he's been in, and I love, he does a good job, I think,
he's
in
got
anything he does.
Style
zeroed
in,
I mean, worked for him, and it gave him money.
Absolutely.
He's laughing all the way to the bank, and I'm sitting here.
Like, go, yeah.
So, But, yeah. Anyway.
God, it's like a lot of the stuff I love ends up being stuff that was.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, it's like I liked that stuff a long time ago. Y'all are, you know, like y'all were laughed at me then, you know, whatever.
I know. And now it's popular. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of funny. The first Transformers movie, the animated one in the 80s. Show was huge. Everybody loved it. The movie came out and no one went to see the movie. And it was by far one of the best Transformer stories I'd ever seen in the 80s with that group of Transformers that were. It was just like, God, Optimus Prime's dead. Megatron kind of dead and transmogrified.
That's the thing. I think word found out about Optimus dying, and that's why kind of people shied away from it. They
said it in the trailer, I think.
That's
too, and it's like, no.
That kind of people was like, I don't want to see Optimus Prime die, so that's why they
exactly. Yeah. As soon as Ironhide bought it, I'm like, oh, this is a different movie.
Yeah. So there was actually killing and cussing in it.
Yeah.
That was very
2 curse words, I think.
2 or 3, something like that.
Spike said, "Oh shit," as they went into Unicron, and I think there was something. I think there was a dam. Open, damn it. Open.
Yeah, open, damn you.
I don't know how I remember that. Ultra Magnus is trying
that shook me.
Imagine yourself in that situation. Of course you're going to be sent.
I didn't catch Spike's his cuss word, but I got Ultra Magnus's loud clear later on. And I mean, when he said "open, damn you," I'm like, oh crap.
I speculate that they may have cut the shit out.
Maybe.
Dun, dun, dun.
I know.
Even more scandalous.
I mean, when he said "open, damn you," I'm like, okay, that was not what I saw weekday afternoons. When
No, you didn't. Yeah, these were the cartoons where everybody survives. They just get scuffed.
Yeah.
You know, G.I. Joe.
Well, that was the thing about it too, is that Optimus Prime died, but him and Megatron had been in so many fights where one of them had gotten shot by the other one, and then he got fixed up later on back at the credit quarters, and he was all right.
Exactly.
But now this one was like,
they went
he
for
died,
it.
He went for it. And
Good movie though. Good movie. I even continued it. Like all the Transformers were different after that.
I like the soundtrack of it too.
Oh, the soundtrack was great. I loved it.
This one was highly regarded. Let's go with something completely different.
Right.
This one was highly regarded, but still, I don't think a lot of people went to see it. Sing Street. This was a couple of years old movie
Sing
now.
Street?
It takes place in 2016 now.
Wow, never even
basically, it's in a boy grown up in Dublin during the 1980s escapes his strained family life by starting a band to impress the mysterious girl he likes. Yeah, it's really good. The soundtrack of it is really great. All the guys are singing. He's really singing in the. They bring up a band, basically. He creates a band or whatever called Sing Street, and it's like I said, it takes place in Dublin in the 1980s. So he's all about MTV. He's constantly watching MTV on television, and it's kind of funny how they evolve in the band or whatever, because they come to school looking the band that he saw on the video or whatever type thing, whatever. Like he was watching not Cult, what's wow.
MTV show?
No, I'm talking about the band.
Was it a rock band? Or?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of it. Man.
And was it hair metal?
No. Anyway, they had he watched Duran Duran, and there would be and they do videos. They actually filmed videos of them too, or whatever.
Reenacting the videos.
Some of the kind of 80s stylish stuff to their stuff, and but anyway, and it was it's funny movie, but it's hard. It's got some hardness to it too, some seriousness too, because the school he was in or whatever, it's a very rough school, so he had gotten beaten up or whatever, but it's a really good movie. Like I said, the soundtrack is really great.
It's rated fairly high, 8.
Yeah. It wasn't, it's just one of those things that just, like a lot of other, it's not a big blockbuster, so it just gets lost in the shuffle of movies. Plus it takes place in a different country too, so I think that's what gets kind of.
I wonder, it probably did maybe better in England or something if it was
Probably.
sort of revolved around their culture. You know?
But it's
Yeah.
a really good movie.
Okay, this dude, the star of it, that's him right
Yeah.
there, right? Was also in
Yeah.
Vikings TV show.
But he actually,
Everything.
I mean, they actually
Cool.
sing this music or whatever, and the I don't know if they actually can play instruments, but I know they actually can sing songs because I've watched some stuff on YouTube of them doing it.
It seems like they do
Actually
that a lot
playing-
more. The actual stars are doing the things.
Yeah, because
the
they had
performances and all.
they had to do, well, here's another one that's kind of a little bit cultured because it didn't really do well. It did okay at theaters. The one That Thing You Do, directed by Tom Hanks.
Oh yeah.
Directed by Tom
That was
Hanks.
really good.
I remember seeing a not documentary, but like behind the scenes of that. They made sure to the guys they got to play the band members. They wanted them to play the instruments and
Right.
actually be able to play the song,
Right.
or at least some of the songs, whatever the band did. So they had to get the actors, who could play, instruments or whatever too. So, but that's a really good movie too. That one. I like that
It's
one.
really
Was,
sweet.
and I hooked into that because like I said, I was heavy into when I was younger. I liked a lot of 50s, 60s music or whatever. So, but so there's a lot of, the soundtrack is really great in that too, and Tom Hanks wrote some of the music or whatever to it too.
Right.
He plays a small, of course, he plays their manager or whatever, but he directed it, and it was really good. And I think that did well too, or not did well. It didn't do as well as I think they thought it was going to, but I really liked it. And
Have y'all heard of a movie called? It's British, a little older, called Quadrophenia.
I've heard
I've
of
heard
it.
of it, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. It's totally. I don't know if it did well at its time or not.
You can
but,
scroll down and they have it like the box office stuff like
yeah.
that. I don't know. Sometimes they do.
yeah.
These days, okay.
Technical specs.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe they don't.
I don't. Yeah.
Sometimes they do.
But
They have
this
on
was
it.
just a movie that I probably never would have seen. But there was I think it was Bravo or Independent Film Channel or something was showing a lot of more foreign stuff. Probably like mid to late '90s, early 2000s was a lot of that. So that was one I kind of discovered then. But it's just about a certain sort of cultural. It was like sort of music culture in England at that time. So you had rockers who were, of course, they wore all black and leather and stuff like that. Then you had the mod kids. Have you heard of mod before? It was a style.
Mm-hmm.
They'd go listen to what they would dress sort of in suits and stuff, but their own kind of thing about it, and interesting like formal wear and stuff. But then they would listen to God, I hate my brain. Really, really popular American music at the time, like Aretha Franklin and like a lot of that kind of stuff. What is that called? What was that big movement of music of African American stuff coming out of America at the time? It was usually related to a certain
year?
company.
Soul?
So it was like soul and stuff, but this is like actually in the 60s, 70s. It was after hippies and stuff, and it was a little bit of but they were listening to old 50s music too.
Motown.
Motown, yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah, no, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a lot of that, and it was just this interesting kind of cultural class. And then they would, almost like gangs, they would fight the rockers back and forth, and it was a little bit about that. It was strange, and they'd ride mopeds, like that was a big deal. Sting is actually in this movie. He was a cool mod guy.
That's why I've heard this
Yeah.
movie before. Okay. Okay.
It's a pretty interesting little thing to watch. If you like music history kind of stuff, it shows you sort of like...
Didn't Def Leppard have an album called Quadrophenia, maybe? Maybe that's why I'm hearing it from you.
Maybe.
Or it had something similar name to it or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of it is at the end of the
Somebody had an album. Anyway, maybe it's just from this movie. I don't know.
Right.
Does it have a good soundtrack to it? I mean,
Yeah.
it
Oh
seems like it
yeah.
might have a
Pretty
good
big.
soundtrack.
It was. Oh gosh, The Who.
Oh.
That's
Yeah,
what I
The
heard.
Who is
That's what I
basically
heard
the whole
this movie.
soundtrack is The Who.
I think
Yeah.
they came out with it.
Yeah,
It must have
yeah.
been the soundtrack album. I'm
Even the
thinking
main
of.
guy looks a
That's
little
what
bit
I
like
heard
Ted, the guitarist for The Who. A little
Oh,
bit.
Pete Townsend.
Yeah. Phil Daniels almost looks a little like
Pete
just
Townsend.
that kind of
Yeah,
angry
early
face
Pete Townsend.
and
Yeah,
stuff,
early
you know.
Pete Townsend. Yeah.
Mhm. But it was just this, you're with this one guy and he's just full of angst through the whole thing, and you're really getting to a slice of the culture in England at that time, which is I thought kind of interesting.
That's what. Okay. Yeah, I got you.
And I
Now
guess it's
all
probably
clear.
a cult classic now because no one.
Probably, yeah. I mean, I haven't really
Yeah.
heard it.
Yeah.
Nobody brings it up saying, "Hey, that's the greatest movie of all
No.
time." Or
And that's an interesting thing. Music as its own sort of subgenre, not so much like musicals, but historical things, where how the band formed. Like and that stuff does pretty well if it's hits at the right time and stuff. Like the one about Queen that just came out. Like
Yeah,
we went to see that. A lot of people went to see it.
yeah, I want to see. I want to see it.
It's good.
There's
Yeah.
the Elton John one coming out.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. I'm fascinated by it because I'm interested in how that happened.
Mhm.
And you hope that they're accurate enough. I know it's impossible to be completely
Right.
accurate, but
Well, I mean, I know what I've heard about Bohemian Rhapsody, they did kind of a little bit kind of.
Sure, they made it
tweak.
not as they wanted to.
They didn't go as far.
They made it positive and
Right.
not so. You're
There's-
not
there-
with him suffering with AIDS.
There's
and
a
all that
movie
kind of
coming out
stuff,
called The Dirt. It's about Motley Crue.
Yes, is it a movie or a series? It's based on their
I saw
book.
them interview two of them interviewed on a podcast, not the band members, but the two of the actors who were going to be in on a podcast.
Yeah,
I think it's a movie.
as a movie. Okay,
I think
it looks kind of interesting because it's based on. I mean, they
it's
were
based on a book that that was written by
and
them.
Motley
about
Crue
them.
is definitely. They weren't angels to
They
say
were
the least.
everything about sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah.
They used that term they had that up there in their.
Yeah, all their amps go to 11.
Yeah.
That's another one. Speaking
Spinal
of
Tap.
Spinal Tap, oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, that didn't do. I mean, it's a good movie because
Yeah,
it
I'd
didn't
say
do,
so.
wasn't a big.
Another love child of Rob Reiner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause they didn't. It didn't do. I think people were expecting, again, a documentary type thing. They didn't get the humor because it's so dry humor.
Yeah.
So dry
It's
humor that
perfect,
it's just
so.
like they didn't get the humor at that time or whatever.
Oh, it's
So,
amazing. Yeah, I just remember Stonehenge and I just die laughing.
The second you said turn it up to the 211.
yeah. It's perfect. Yeah, it's,
And as funny though is they became popular as a band.
yeah.
Spinal
They actually
Tap.
would
Yeah.
go. They
I
actually
knew
did
people
tour.
that had
They
Spinal
actually
Tap
toured.
albums. I thought they
Yeah.
were a band, and I was a little confused. I didn't realize that.
Well, see, they had come out. I think that summer. Then Christopher Guest. That fall, Christopher Guest and Harry Shearer became members of Saturday Night Live for that one season.
Right.
And so they brought because Michael McKean was a host of one of the episodes.
Right.
And they brought up Spinal Tap. They even showed a little bit of the movie or whatever type thing. And they actually performed on stage, not as Spinal Tap though. They performed as the Folksmen,
Oh
which
yeah.
they were Folksmen years
Yeah.
later in the movie Winding the Mighty Wind.
Mighty
or
Wind.
whatever.
That's a great movie too.
And see, this is like 1985 when they did this,
Yeah.
or whatever, and so they did the winding. When they
so they're working on that story back.
They were
then,
doing that a
just
long
doing
time
it.
ago,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
That's kinda-
hilarious.
Um,
Just as a comedy music
Right.
kind of thing.
and
Neat.
of course, Christopher Guest, I guess, kind of got, the bug of doing movies similar to Spinal Tap. That's why he did, the
Best in
Waiting-
Show,
Waiting for Guffman.
Waiting for Guffman, and a bunch of them.
Have you seen any of the movies he's done like that?
Not a whole lot, but there was a TV show with Chris O'Dowd that he produced and directed, I think,
Okay.
called Family Tree, maybe?
Huh.
Oh, I've
Which
heard of it.
had a lot of his humor in it.
Really? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I
And he
definitely
played
would look
a
that
character
up.
in it,
I
too.
definitely want to, because I like. Well, I've heard of that, but I hadn't seen it.
It's good.
Waiting for Guffman. I forgot how crazy that
Waiting for
movie
Guffman
is.
is awesome.
It's awesome. A
Waiting
small
for
town
Guffman.
play. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
you would appreciate. I think you would appreciate it. I mean, I don't know,
It's good.
but
It's
I've heard
funny
you've
as hell.
been in plays. Or,
It's
that's what I
community.
heard.
It revolves around community theater in a small
Yeah,
town.
Perfect.
This guy comes in with
You're
big
So highly
ideas.
inappropriate.
Yeah.
I mean, the concept.
Very weird scenarios.
Yes.
The guy who wrote the play is like from New York, but he lives in this small town,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so they're coming up with the small town. It's a fictional small town, and they're coming up with their Founders Day thing. They're celebrating their Founders Day thing, and they want to do a play, and he writes the play and everything like that, and he feels like it's so good that it should go on Broadway. So they invite a guy. He invites a guy from New York to come down and to watch the play to see if it was good enough to go Broadway. And then his last name is Guffman. That's why it's called Waiting for Guffman.
Gotcha.
And it's hilarious because it's got the, again, like you said, the Christopher Guest humor, the dry, very dry humor. Like I said, similar to Spinal Tap, very dry humor and all that stuff. Oh my God, it's hilarious because his movies, all they do is improv. It's all they is improv because he gives them an outline of what the character maybe could be, whatever type thing.
But
for
if
the
they are
actors.
their character, they'll know how to react in a
Right.
certain situation.
Right, and
Yeah.
so it's all improv.
Oh, so every
yeah.
one of these actors has, binders full of characterization.
Yeah.
And then he did after that he did Best in Show, which is basically about the dog shows that you see, on
Have you
television.
seen it?
No.
Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah.
It's
Best in
incredible.
Show
Oh my
is
God.
great.
Yeah.
And it's got all the similar. Most of the actors go with him or whatever to each movie, where it's like
Then he did the last one. I remembered, and they may probably done
that
one
one.
before that.
Yeah, it did Mighty. Then he did Mighty Wind after Best in Show, which
Yeah.
is about basically they were doing a
folk singer reunion.
folk singer
music reunion.
reunion or whatever, because there was this was a producer that died or something like that, and he produced all these folk bands or whatever type thing, and they got together to celebrate him or whatever type thing.
Oh, and it gets
The
awkward
concert.
and it's
Yeah,
funny as hell.
Because two of them were like there was a male a male and female singing duo, but they
in the
broke
song
up.
with the kiss,
they were in
but
love
they
with
broke
each other.
up.
Yeah,
One
they-
wasn't over it, one was
Yeah.
over it. Yeah.
and so that's one of the group performers, and there's the one that I'm not sure if you ever heard that like a band called Up With People, which is they do a lot of like, oh yeah, go get them type
Yes.
music or whatever type
Yes.
stuff. And they have a band that's like a
Similar.
folk singing band, but it's a similar thing or whatever. And then they do the Folksmen, which is basically Spinal Tap doing the folk music, whatever, the Folksmen
Right.
or whatever type thing.
Yeah.
And it's the same guys who did that were in Spinal Tap,
Mhm.
and so it's hilarious too. But then he did one called For Your Consideration, which is not as good.
Yeah, and then there
It
was
was trying to be like the same kind of humor,
right.
but then they tried to do something different with it.
And then he
it's-
did the one, the Garrison Keillor one after that, right? Because I
I'm
think
sure
he
that
directed
one you're
that
talking
one
about.
about. There was one that they did that was about one. I don't know if Garrison Keillor was in it, but someone played him. It was one about that.
Okay,
That was the
I don't know
last
if
guest movie
Well,
I
he-
heard of. Yeah.
He did one for I'm not sure if he did it for
Let's see.
the mascot, which is about doing mascots, like
yeah.
like
That's
sports
good.
teams mascots. It's on Netflix.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Mascot. Yeah,
Yes.
that's his. That's the last one he did, I think. It's okay.
Mascots.
It's
yeah,
not too.
2016.
It's not too. Yeah. Yeah. It's not. It's.
Maybe I'm
it's
wrong
pretty
about
good.
the. I thought he was in the Garrison Keillor one. I thought he
But
directed it, but I guess not. For your
they're
consideration.
awesome. They're all. Like I said, they're all the movies are awesome. They're just hilarious. Me and my brother watched Best in Show the first before I watched the other ones, and me and my brother were just rolling on the floor laughing or whatever at it because it's so
Correct.
hilarious. And but
There it is, Family Tree. Yeah.
yeah,
So I guess he didn't do the one I was thinking of. Oh well.
okay. But like I said, for your considerations, okay, they tried to do something similar to that. It's almost like he wanted to do something, but he wanted to do his thing, but then he wanted to do something else to broaden it to do something else, and it just didn't. To me, it didn't do work together.
Huh. I vaguely remember Almost Heroes. Never saw it. Who directed that?
I remember
Yeah.
Oh wow, he did direct it. Wow, I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't seen it, but I saw the trailers to it, and yeah. I didn't realize he had directed it.
Yeah. I like Chris Farley, but yeah.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen Adam Sandler's his it's on Netflix, his stand-up special on Netflix?
I haven't. I'm not a huge Adam Sandler fan.
Don't worry about his stuff. There's one you can look up on YouTube if you want to, because it's on YouTube. There's one thing he does that is a tribute to Chris Farley, and it'll make you cry. It'll make you, if you don't cry, you're made of stone.
Oh, yeah. Well, they were like best friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he just does a singing tribute to him, and it's
Yeah.
if you're made of stone if you don't cry.
I like his SNL stuff quite a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are
But
good
it's a good. Like I said, you can find it on YouTube if you don't want to watch the whole special. And but
yeah.
it's funny, but then you'll cry at the same time. You're laughing and crying at the same time.
Chris Farley's inspirational speaker stuff is some of the best. You know, he was
Yeah.
in a van down by the river and he destroys somebody's house.
I mean, his first sketch that he was really prominent in was that sketch that he and Patrick Swayze did with the Chippendales dancing.
Oh,
that was his first. That was his first sketch that
oh
he ever
my God. His entrance back when Letterman did the show, when they bring him on. Oh my God, he's running down the audience. He does all these cartwheels on set. Like he is like he can do so much stuff. I'm just like, whoa. He did crack the set in half and he pushed it back together and stuff. It was amazing. Yeah, and he took him a while. I was like, because he grabbed a guy, took him outside, threw him in the trash can, came back in.
Oh wow.
It was hilarious. I was like, whoa. Yeah, that's an entrance. Yeah. But somehow that was okay. Yeah. And then some other people's entrances. I know they're trying to do something, but it's just like, oh no, it's not working out well. Crispin Glover, oh my God, I don't know what you're doing. Oh Lord. Quit with the karate too close to the face, dude. Come on. I like you, Crispin Glover, but
Have you seen that part where Crispin Glover was on David Letterman years ago?
yeah,
I
look up
know-
both of
I know
those
what
on
you're
YouTube.
talking
Oh
You
my
can
God.
see on YouTube or whatever.
It's so like, ooh.
That was the first time that really you saw any kind of stuff happen on a talk show or whatever type of thing that was really unscripted or not unscripted, but just like something
Little
odd,
dangerous.
something odd or whatever that happened that wasn't just this regular, talk show, talking to the guests and seeing what they're doing, all that stuff. That was like one of the first things that was kind of off the cuff.
Yeah, to say the least, yeah. Well, cool. Gosh, we could probably go on about cult stuff forever. Some of my favorite stuff, like I keep saying, is basically fits into that genre because I like weird stuff and stuff that's different. And I don't know. It's kind of what it comes from, you know. Today's horrible thing could be tomorrow's like pinnacle gem. You know, it's just kind of it's kind of funny that way. All right, I guess anybody else got anything to conclude with, or everybody good? Thank you, everybody, for joining us this week, and we'll be back with episode 9 sometime, somewhere, someday.